a kingdom and the king was murdered by his own relatives. There was a kingdom and the king was murdered by his own relatives for taking hold of the kingdom itself. And overnight, the queen, along with her son, she ran away. These king's relatives were searching for this son also. They wanted to murder the son as well. Otherwise, he will remain as a heir. So, but fortunately, this lady understood the threat and the queen ran away from that kingdom at night and she traveled far away just to safeguard her own son. And morning, she had crossed the complete kingdom. Morning, she reached some other forest area around which there was a village and there was a potter's house. She reached the potter's house and she asked for a little bit of food and water. That potter was staying there alone and he casually asked her what happened. She told her tragic story that her husband was murdered by his own relatives for the sake of the kingdom and she has ran away carrying her one son. Now this potter became pity and he told her, you stay with me. I am anyhow alone. Your son, let him stay here only. He will be helping me in my tasks. Anyhow, you have no other place to go. I can give you shelter. Even I have nobody else. So she agreed. She started staying with the potter. After a few years, this son grew up. And this son also learned the craft of making pots out of mud. And at that time, when he had grown up, the mother told him the facts of all those things, how his father was murdered by his own relatives. Now this boy, he used to make horses and soldiers out of the mud and he used to stack them in a corner. The potter used to ask him, what are you doing? And this boy used to say, one day there will be life into these objects and I will build up my own army and I will take revenge on my relatives who have killed my father. I will take back my kingdom. And the potter used to laugh at him and potter used to say, what are you doing? How these mud articles will get into life? But the boy was confidently saying, someday I will give life into these soldiers and into the horses. This boy grew up. This boy was sitting on the branch of the tree which was adjacent to the potter's house. That tree was called a Shalivahana. So, people did not know what is the name of this boy. He was always sitting on the branch of the tree and they used to start calling him as Shalivahana because he was sitting on the Shalivahana. The boy was gradually nicknamed as Shalivahana. This boy grew up, he became a young man. When he became a young man, in his own village, he built a small group of young people, like-minded people. There used to be dacoits and thieves who used to attack the villages. All these young people attacked all those thieves and dacoits in return and they safeguarded the village. When they safeguarded the village, all the villagers appointed the Shalivahana himself as their leader. Gradually this name spread around and many other adjacent villages, they started helping Shalivahana. And one day Shalivahana built a very big army and through the army he went back to his father's kingdom and he killed all those his relatives who had killed his own father and he regained his kingdom. He became an emperor. In our calendar system, even today we have the name of Shalivahana. Shalivahana Shaka, Gupta Shaka, Krista Shaka. After British came here, we started counting the number of years in the name of Jesus Christ. Otherwise, we used to have Gupta Shaka based on Chandragupta Maurya or Shalivahana Shaka based on this particular emperor called Shalivahana. So after a few years, when Shalivahana was appointed as an emperor, what happened was some other scholar came to offer his own daughter as a wife to Shalivahana. And Shalivahana married that lady. That scholar was well versed in Sanskrit. His daughter was also well versed in Sanskrit. But Shalivahana was speaking a language which was unrefined. So, one day what happened? In the swimming pool, when the emperor and his empress, when they were having bath, this queen started pouring water towards Shalivahana, and he also started splashing towards her face. And she started telling Modaka, Modaka. And he thought, my wife must be wanting sweets. So he immediately ordered the cook to prepare Modaka. Now the queen or empress started laughing at him, saying, I did not tell you to fetch me Modaka as a sweet. I told you Modaka means Ma Udaka. Don't splash water on me, Ma Udaka. You don't understand Sanskrit. You speak Paishachi language, due to which you are speaking unrefined language. The refined language you are unable to understand. She laughed. But Shalivahana took it very seriously. Next day he went to his court and he challenged to his scholars that within 6 months, can you people make me a scholar in Sanskrit so that I will equally speak with my wife in Sanskrit? She thinks she can speak and understand Sanskrit, Samskrita, whereas my language is an unrefined language. Now there was a poet called Gunadhya. Gunadhya told, it is impossible to learn and speak Samskrita in 6 months. It will take minimum 6 years for you to be well versed. Now Shalivahana said, I don't have that much of time. I have to take up the challenge which my wife has offered me, and within 6 months I want to become a scholar. And there was one more scholar called Sarvavarma. Sarvavarma told Shalivahana that within 6 months I will make you a Samskrita scholar, but the condition is that you will have to stay with me, or I'll have to stay with you 24 hours. 6 months, me and you should be in continuous touch with each other, and I will make you a scholar. Now Gunadhya told, if at all king becomes a scholar within 6 months, I will stop writing Samskrita poetry, I will leave the kingdom. This is my challenge, Gunadhya told. But Sarvavarma accepted the challenge. Shalivahana accepted the challenge. Within 6 months, Shalivahana became a great scholar in Samskrita. Now, Gunadhya, he agreed that he has to leave the kingdom. But Shalivahana told, my dear Gunadhya, don't leave the kingdom, stay with me. But Gunadhya told, challenge is a challenge, I will go away. And Gunadhya went away. After a few years, there was a serious drought in the kingdom and there was no rain. Meanwhile, one day, Shalivahana got a palm script, manuscript. Somebody brought him to the court and that was written in a Paishachi language. And Shalivahana, because he was now a scholar in Sanskrit, he said, no more I am going to look at Paishachi books. I am only going to look at Samskrita books. Actually, what had happened was, Gunadhya had written one story called Brahat Katha in Paishachi. That Brahat Katha is available even today. He had written in Sanskrit. To accept the challenge of Shalivahana, he had written that in Paishachi as well. But as Shalivahana did not accept it, it was taken back to Gunadhya. Shalivahana did not know that Gunadhya had sent it. Now this Gunadhya was into a serious penance in the forest and he was offering this palm script leaves of this Brahat Katha, which he had written in Paishachi, into the fire. And because of his serious penance, there was a drought, there was no rain. Shalivahana went all the way to the forest and he was seeing that Gunadhya had become very weak. He was into serious penance and he was offering the Paishachi script to the fire. Shalivahana requested Gunadhya, my dear Gunadhya, at least now please come back. Don't take this very seriously. You would have thought that it may take me 6 years to learn, but somehow I put a lot of my hard work and soft work to become a scholar in Samskrita. It does not mean that I don't like Paishachi now. I was earlier speaking Paishachi only. Now I am very much refined emperor. I am able to speak in Sanskrit and read in Sanskrit. And your Brahat Katha book, which you have written in Sanskrita, you don't have to again write it in Paishachi just for the sake of satisfying your ego or my ego. Please come back. But Gunadhya did not agree to that. Gunadhya put all the Paishachi Brahat Katha palm leaf into the fire, and Gunadhya, out of his own penance, he left the body in the forest. This is a true story. Very beautiful story where we had an emperor called Shalivahana, we had a poet called Gunadhya, and that book Brahat Katha is available even now. So Indians, feel proud. Indians, take your tradition seriously. ಭಾರತೀಯರು ಭರತಖಂಡದ ಮಹಿಮೆಯನ್ನ ತಿಳಿಯಿರಿ. If possible, start learning Sanskrita. It's a very beautiful language. If you start learning Sanskrita, you will have a much greater benefit of learning or understanding many other languages, because